So welcome to another episode of Outdoor Experts. And today we have a very special guest, Mr. Will Guidara, the author of the Unreasonable Hospitality book. And guys, if you have not read this book, you have to. It's important not just if you're in the hospitality business, but if you're in real estate, in the service industry, something that is really make you shift the way you look at customer service and customer experience. So welcome, Will. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So you're coming to speak to our brokers.
Yep.
And we were talking earlier about, how the service industry, when it comes to real estate, is very transactional. How do you include in that environment the experience part of connection when people are very driven on the outcome of the sale?
Well, it's funny. One of the reasons I wrote the book is because I think way too often people conflate the hospitality industry as consisting merely of restaurants and hotels.
Correct, yeah.
I think that no matter what you do for a living, you can make the choice to be in the hospitality industry simply by deciding to care a little bit more and try a little bit harder. And when I look at the real estate industry, I think it's one of the most obvious places to imbue with the culture of hospitality, because when I think about the job you're actually doing, which is working together with people to find their homes, right? And when you look at it through that lens, like that on its own, there is nobility to that. That is hospitality. And so what I'm suggesting is to just approach it in a more human way and being more intentional in pursuit of the relationships you are trying to build with these people. Now, how do you do it, or how do you encourage people to do it, are two different things.
Yes.
I think one of the best ways to encourage someone to do the right thing is to show that in doing it, it benefits their own selfish interests, right?
Right.
And it does just feel good to make other people happy, and I think is one of the most energizing things there is in business. But B, when you treat people in the right way, when you give them a sense of genuine welcome, when you make them feel seen, you're effectively giving people stories to share over and over and over again. And one day you wake up and you have legions of ambassadors out there doing your marketing on your behalf far better than you could ever do it yourself. Not to mention the fact that the loyalty you earn from these people, when you go above and beyond with someone, when you don't treat it merely as a transaction, but you try to craft it into a magical experience, they will never work with someone else ever again. And so I think the reasons to do it are endless. The way to do it is just to try to approach every relationship in a more personal way, recognizing that these people are not just a numbered customer, they're a unique human being that's trusted you with one of the most important tasks there is, which is to help them build a life for themselves and their family, and that's something that should be taken very, very seriously.
And there is an intimacy of that moment, right? Because you learn so much information about the customer and what they likes, not just from the property he wants to buy, but people tend to, if you ask open questions, you get a lot of information about what's happening in their lives. So if someone would spend the time to craft that relationship building exercise, how would that translate into a result of providing them these unreasonable moments?
Okay, so for a very, very long time in New York, every time I bought or rented a new home, without exception, the congratulations gift from my broker was a bottle of sparkling wine. Now, this is someone...
Do you like sparkling wine?
Kind of.
Okay.
But this is someone with whom I've spent weeks, if not months, looking together for my new home. If they've been paying attention, they should know every detail about me and my life. And the fact that they gave me a sparkling wine, that's proof that there was zero thought put into that gift. I don't feel seen by that person. I feel like they're just checking a box. Whereas, imagine this, if you would. Let's say the first time we walked into the home that I end up buying, they overhear me and my wife talking about that little nook by the window where she could imagine herself doing yoga every morning. Let's say instead of that bottle of sparkling wine, there's a yoga mat over there with a little candle and a note that says, "Welcome to your new home." Now this is a person with whom I now have a relationship. That is something I'm going to remember far more than I am a ubiquitous bottle of sparkling wine that they've clearly bought for dozens and dozens of people before me. I think when you are there to care for someone, when you're there to walk down life's journey with someone, that brings with it a sense of responsibility to take these transactions and turn them into magical experiences. And being present enough with people to get to know them and then caring enough about them to do something with what you heard, it can be very, very powerful. So that's just one small example, but I think in this industry, it's just ripe with opportunity.
And it's an interesting example you gave because it's one that doesn't cost money, right?
Yeah.
It comes back to listening and making people feel. And you quote Maya Angelou in your book.
Yes.
And you talk about how, that quote where she talks about how you make people feel. And I think that's exactly the difference between customer experience and a customer service, right? And people today with technology, people are focusing so much on integration of AI and having tools that will enable you to contact your customer maybe quicker, but there is still a gap on the experience part. You would agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think AI is an amazing tool. And like any tool, when used correctly, it can actually make humans more hospitable. Right? It gives us greater access to information. It allows us to more consistently and quickly reply to people's requests and all of this. I think where it becomes dangerous is for the people who try to replace all of their human interactions with AI, as opposed to those people that use it as a tool to make themselves inherently more hospitable. But I do believe that this season we're in, it's an opportunity for the human moments to be as humanly possible, for those opportunities for connection to be really taken advantage of. Because when you are consistent and generous and creative in your investments into those relationships, well, relationships take a long time to build and the loyalty you earn takes a long time to erode. I believe it can become your greatest competitive advantage.
And that was another point you have highlighted in the book, right? Because people will copy your services or come up with a better brand or a better product, but relationships is your competitive advantage.
For sure.
Within real estate, how would you position the relationship aspect? You're talking just from a customer point of view, or you're talking about the culture in the real estate agency with the team, or is everything?
I think it's everything. I mean, when I talk to different people through these ideas, it's just a matter of who your stakeholders are, right? Whether you're in a restaurant, you have those relationships with your partners, with your customers, with your employees, with your vendors. The same is true in real estate. I mean, obviously the place to start is with your customers, right? It's a very clear and well-defined opportunity to be a bit more present, invest the time to get to know them, be willing to go above and beyond, do the little and the big things that make them feel seen. But at the end of the day, hospitality is a team sport. It doesn't matter how hospitable you are if you don't create a culture wherein everyone in the organization feels inspired and inclined to go above and beyond for other people. The experience won't itself be hospitable. It requires that everyone gets on board, and you can't expect the people you work with to know how good it feels to give hospitality if they haven't first known how good it feels to receive hospitality from you.
And you talked as well about the hiring of people as well, rather than necessarily not the one with the best CV, but the people that have the right fit to the company. Can you talk about this a little bit more?
Yeah, a buddy of mine once upon a time, his name is Angus. He rows oceans for a living, and I just think it's such a crazy profession to have that one day I said, hey, if I were to do that for a living, what's one piece of advice you'd give me? And he said, hire the right team, not the best team. And went on to share a story with me about how there was a race and he'd put together a team of the most accomplished, fit, experienced rowers that he knew. And and they lost terribly. The following year, instead, he just put together a group of really good people that shared an amazing chemistry and worked really well together, and then taught them how to row and got them in shape, and they won by a lot. The whole lesson there is, in very few professions these days, is the work rocket science, right? But the thing that will define an organization's ability to succeed is the extent to which the collection of individuals are able to come together as a trusting team. And so if you hire for chemistry, for personality, if you hire for outlook and optimism, and then teach people how to do the job, the results will always be so much greater. I used to be told when I was coming up that you hire for hospitality and you train for excellence, as if to say that some people are hospitable and some people aren't. I've come to learn that if you hire people that you think you can trust, that you think are going to work hard and who will get along with everyone else in the team, you can teach them how to do the job, you can teach them how to be excellent, and you can inspire hospitality in them. And so the short answer is, if you have people that work for you, one of the greatest gifts you can give them when you hire someone new is to hire the person that they're going to get along with, such that collectively you have the capacity to do great things.
Well, that's a great point. And don't you think, I think if you put yourself in the shoes of a real estate agent who is trying to manage a life without a salary, you know, they go paycheck to paycheck, they are super focused on trying to close the deal. Why do you think it's difficult for them to create those experience moments? Because when you break those down, as you illustrated earlier, they're easy things to do.
Yeah.
But why people don't do it?
I mean, I can't come up with a reason why it's difficult. I don't think it's difficult.
They're not, correct.
I think it's just making the decision to do it. Why doesn't everyone already do it? I think we've come up in different cultures working for different people, and we only do what we believe right looks like until we figure out a better way to do it. I think we're in a season right now where a lot of the same tricks that once worked aren't working necessarily as well, or the people who are really successful are trying to seize on this moment to kind of re-solidify their foundation and build even more success. But there's an opportunity right now where a lot of the world is being commoditized for the people who truly want to stand out to just be more creative in building lasting relationships with their customers. And so, like most things, there's nothing difficult about it. It's not hard.
No.
It does require trying a little bit harder. But I think it pays dividends when you do.
And what tip would you, if you are a new real estate agent coming to a competitive market, if you apply your book as a guideline for their success, what would be your top 3 tips?
Well, the paradigm shift of unreasonable hospitality is you can systemize it. You can put together systems that result in a more consistent and ongoing spirit of hospitality within your organization. The first thing I always advise people to do is really understand the experience that you are delivering and all the touch points. Most people have never paused for long enough to really break down the various touch points in an experience, and until you've isolated each one of them, you have an inability to elevate all of them.
Very good point.
So whether that's how do people reach out to you the first time? Where are you meeting them? What can you bring them when you meet them? If you're meeting them in the morning, that's a touch point. Do you bring a coffee with you every single time? You know, isolating every touch point in the experience and then selectively figuring out which ones you want to make amazing. The recurring moments, which exist for everyone, you could probably break down into a few groups the people you're selling a home to. First-time home buyer, someone who's expanding because they've just had children, someone who's downsizing because their kids have left for school, and
investors.
Investors. There's call it 7 or 8 of them. If you look at each one of those groups, there's some pattern recognition you can do. in identifying what are things you can add to the experience that are specific to each one of them, which doesn't require you reinventing the wheel with each customer. It just requires you having the ability to compartmentalize them in such a way where you know the little or big things you can do to make them feel served. But then 3, and perhaps most importantly, is recognizing that however many transactions you do a year, the people you're transacting with, almost without exception, although I know there's some exceptions, do far fewer. And in many cases, this is a life event for them. And you need to make sure you remember that you treat the interaction not as just another transaction on your book of business, but as their life event. That you remember, you're not selling them a house, you're selling them a home.
Yeah.
That you may be, helping them in the smallest of ways, write their autobiography. This is where they're going to raise their kids. This is where they're going to grow old with their wife. And that simple shift in how you think about the work that you're doing unlocks inside of you the ability to do it so much more thoughtfully.
Someone's legacy, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about technology earlier, and it's interesting to observe real estate specifically because there has been many companies that came up to the market saying, oh, you can sell your property direct, you don't need a broker.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of drive that people can Google and find information by themselves. Information is now widely available. Why would somebody want to use a real estate agent, for example? Do you think it's because people are still in demand of that personal connection?
Well, no, I don't think, unless the real estate agent is awesome, that there is a reason to use a real estate agent, honestly. I think there's the real estate agents I used back in the day who were approaching it in a very transactional way. I wouldn't actually hire one. The websites can do all of that. When I hear you say that, what that says to me is there is no excuse to not start approaching your work in a more human-centric way. Because if you don't, you're going to be out of a job.
Right.
Because eventually the technology will replace you. What it can't replace is me feeling that there's this person who's going to take the time to get to know me. They're going to help me figure out what's the right next step for me in my life. They're going to be looking out for me and safeguarding me against things that I never would have even thought to consider. They're going to ensure that the place I buy is going to be the best place to raise my kids. They're going to make sure that it's safe or it's proximate to whatever. You get the gist. I think the technology, which by the way is popping up in all sorts of industries.
Correct, yeah.
We're at a moment of reckoning, where those that don't understand that hospitality is the only competitive advantage we have against technology will soon be finding themselves out of a job. Those that do, however, recognize it as their competitive advantage will have an unbelievable amount of success.
Can you share from all the stories that you shared today, what's your favorite when it comes to those unreasonable moments in your career?
I mean, I'll share some from real estate.
Yes? Oh, great. Even better.
I'll tell you one of mine that happened actually for me and then one that was shared with me. I bought and sold an apartment in New York City. I was selling my apartment and buying a new one because we needed more space for my kids. And the same broker was helping me sell mine and buy the next one. Now, that means he's in my apartment many, many, many times, showing it to potential buyers. And then he's also in my new apartment, kind of getting it ready for me to move in. This is what I didn't realize he was doing. Every time he went in to show my old apartment, he'd open up the refrigerator and take a picture. Did that for like 4 months, however long it took us to sell it. Then I think he gave all those pictures to his assistant and said, just look for the things that are in every single picture and then buy all those things and put them in the new fridge of their new apartment. We moved into our new apartment. I opened up the fridge, and it was stocked with everything that we need for life. This small thing that didn't require any thoughtfulness. It was clearly a thing that he did, but it was more thoughtful than anything any real estate agent had ever done for me.
That's a great story.
And you're moving into a new place, and you're overwhelmed with kids and cribs and diapers and work. And that's one thing that we did not have to worry about. It was perfect. Another one, a friend of mine who's a real estate agent in Seattle, Washington, told me this story, that she was selling she was the broker for the buyer. And they fell in love with this house, and she was the wife that was going to buy the house was pregnant. And the people selling the house had kids that were a little bit older, and in the kids' room there was a giant stuffed teddy bear, like the size of me. And this woman fell in love with it and just loved it so much. And the broker asked the people selling the house, like, can I buy that from you? Because if she moved in here and that teddy bear was here, it would mean a lot. I know she loves it so much. But they had an emotional connection to the teddy bear, so they said no. This broker spent weeks going online and looking everywhere, trying to find this frickin' thing. Finally found it, an hour-and-a-half drive away. Went and drove up there, got it, and when they got together at the office to do the closing paperwork, she said to the husband, hey, can I have your keys to the car so I can move it closer when you guys are done? And when the wife came out, ready to get in the car to drive to their new home, that giant teddy bear was sitting in the passenger seat of the car waiting for them. This little thing. The Maya Angelou quote is, people will forget what you say, they'll forget what you do, they'll never forget how you made them feel. That broker showed them so many different houses, I'm sure, scheduled so many different things, sent all these organized and detailed follow-up emails, this, that, the other thing, worked really hard to do a good job by them. They will remember none of those things, but they will never forget the moment where they saw that giant teddy bear in the passenger seat of that car. If you're willing to invest a little more energy, it's remarkable what you can accomplish, and I guarantee you that young family who's just about to have a kid that bought an expensive house and that will definitely move a few more times will never work with another real estate agent again. Caring more, trying harder, being more present, a little bit more thoughtful. It's hard to measure the return on this stuff, but that doesn't mean the return's not there. In fact, it's so vast, it's almost incalculable.
And is the translation what we call referrals, right? This is the basis of more business.
100%.
And we talk a lot about, do you want to get 10 leads from social media, or if you want 10 referrals? I'm sure all of them will want referrals.
Without question.
Without question.
Yeah.
And that's the name of the game. And Will, as our final question, and we ask all our guests, how would you sell a house?
How would I sell a house?
Yes.
Well, I think it depends on the house. I've always believed that the best way to get people excited about anything is to give them a glimpse of what it would be like to have that thing in their lives. And so I wouldn't have an open house. I'd have a cocktail party or a brunch. Like, so often when I go to an open house, you're just walking around looking at other people's closets as opposed to structuring the event in a way that people can actually imagine themselves living every day like the experience you've created for them. And I would try to just do things like that on an ongoing basis. But I think it's about taking the things that people already understand, an open house being the most obvious, and making it more fun, more connective, more real. That's how I would approach it.
Will, it was a great opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you.
Your book is really transforming the way we look at customer experience, and hopefully we're going to be able to apply a lot of the things in our business, and I look forward for you to meet with the brokers and give them some of your insights, which I'm sure they're going to appreciate a lot. So thank you. It was great to have you.
I can't wait. Thank you so much.